All right, first maple tapping of 2025. So Paxton's gonna show us how it's done here on our first tree of the season. All right, go for it. Push. Stop. No. Now flip the switch. Now push it. Just push the button. All right. There you go. Very good.
Let's see.
Okay, there you go. Put this away. Go ahead, tap that in. Yep. Yep, a little bit more. Nice job.
Is that way?
Woohoo!
And hey, Dad, is that way?
I know.
Huh?
Yep.
Oh no! Save the
All right.
Save the
Do you see it? Save the sap. He says, save the sap. Oh, that's great.
Where's the bucket?
It's beautiful.
Get the bucket!
Get the bucket, he says. All right, let's do it. Let's get the bucket. We're wasting this valuable sap.
I'll go ahead. I know. I'll just drink it.
Let's just drink it. All right, bucket that.
Nope, no more going to waste.
Alrighty, check it out. Okay, so gonna walk you through just kind of a quick process for tapping maple trees, specifically hanging buckets. This was a tree that we haven't tapped yet, so this is not one that we would have to worry about this with. But one thing you want to be mindful of is if you are tapping a tree that has already been tapped like the previous year or really even in the last couple of years, you want to find the tap hole that was there previously, and then you want to basically go either down or up about 6 to 8 inches and then over a couple of inches. You wouldn't want to tap, definitely not that same hole, but really in that same area. It's just going to affect your sap yield. So just going over and up or down, and it can be over in either direction. Most sugar maple sugaring companies or people that are tapping trees, they're going to choose that same pattern and do that every year. That way essentially you're kind of working yourself around the tree. So it's good to get in a rhythm of that, but it doesn't really matter for the sake of the actual tree which way you go with that. But this one we don't have that issue, so we don't have to worry about it. But where you're trying to pick, like if you have a tap like this where it hasn't been tapped before and you can kind of pick anywhere on the tree, you want to ideally pick a south facing side of the tree, and then if you can around either a big root or a big limb. And so we have kind of both of those going on here, so this is going to be a pretty good side of the tree for us to go ahead and tap on. So that's where we're going to go ahead and throw a tree, or throw a tap on this tree. We're going to just do one tap. You could actually, this one we really could do 2 taps. We could do 2 spiles on this tree and essentially hang 2 buckets. But for the sake of what we have going on here, we have plenty of trees. We don't have to worry about maximizing all of the buckets. So this year we're actually going to try to do something a little different, where we're actually only going to put 1 bucket on each tree, and we're just going to see how that goes for us. There's been a lot of studies done that you actually get a better yield if you have 1 tap per tree versus if you have 2 to 3. 3 is going to be the max you're going to have on any tree. So that would be based on the circumference of the actual tree trunk, the diameter here. But again, for this tree here, you can't really see it, but it's actually kind of oblong, so it's a pretty decent sized tree. We could throw 2 taps on this, but again, I'm only going to do 1. So so now that you've kind of picked where you're going to put that tap, you want it to be relatively level with a tiny bit of a slope upwards. So your drill will be kind of faced just a tiny bit up. Doesn't have to be anything drastic. You know, don't go crazy with it. But then also, it's a good idea on your drill bit just to kind of put a mark. That way you know where you're going. But it's about 2 to 2.5 inches. We usually run about 2-inch deep holes, because you're not really going very far to the tree, which is where the sap is actually going up and down the tree. It's going to be in the phloem portions of the tree. So we don't need to go very far. So we just want to go in just enough to where we're going to get to that sapwood, but not so far so we're damaging the tree for no reason. So we're going to go ahead and get that in here. So again, kind of keeping a steady hand really matters too, because you don't want to risk that hole getting too large. So the diameter of the actual drill bit is going to be sized for the spile that you're using, or the spout that's going into the tree. But if you're kind of moving that drill around, you're gonna basically oblong that hole, and then your spiles are gonna leak. So really important to keep a nice steady hand as you're doing this. So getting it started is probably the most important part. So keeping a nice firm start to it, and then going ahead in. And then when I'm coming back out, as you notice there, I go pretty slow coming out. We want to get rid of all that wood that we're pulling out of there. It's really important just to help prevent clogging of the spile itself. Okay, now that we've got a nice clean tap, we are going to go ahead and set the spile. So again, in this part of the sugar bush, we kind of keep things as traditional as possible. So we do hang galvanized buckets and spiles over here. When you're putting in the spile too, don't go too far. That's another issue people encounter. You want it to be, I'll take that, Paxton. You want it to be set in there properly, but you don't want to go too far. A lot of people will go really, really crazy with this, and they'll actually set that in too far, and your spile is tapered. So it's smaller at the far end that goes into the tree, and then it gets wider as it comes out. That's to properly seat the spile in the tree. The problem is if you go in too far, you're essentially pushing that conical shape deeper into the tree than the hole is. And then now what's going to happen is you're actually going to split the tree, which again is going to cause your spile to leak. And that's one of the, probably for beginning maple sugaring individuals, that's probably the biggest thing that you run up against. People will be like, why are my trees, they're leaking all over the place, either not seated properly, like not far enough in and not sealed around, or it was installed too deep and split the tree. And once it's split, there's nothing you can do, unfortunately. So at that point, you're going to lose a lot of sap throughout the season, which is going to lower your yield, so not ideal. But that's pretty much it on the tapping side of things. So at this point, we got our bucket hung. We're going to go ahead and get a lid on here, and then we're going to move on to the next tree. Okay, so here is a good example of where we had once tapped last year. So we've got a tap hole right here, and then we basically went over, I probably went over about 4 inches or so, and then up about 8 inches. So now my new tap is going to go right here. So new spile sitting right here, nice large root coming off of here, should be a great spot for us. Again, south side of the tree. So this is a good place to kind of show you where that old spile will look like. And then another thing, while we're in the sugar bush, the other thing to be mindful of is to be kind of careful, because you also want to be looking for dead trees as well. Be careful not to tap a tree that essentially isn't alive anymore, because it's not going to produce sap for you. And so it's going to be kind of a waste of time, waste of energy and effort out here putting in a bucket on a tree that's dead. The lower sections may not always tell you, they may look healthy, especially if they just died over the last year, or are kind of in their beginning stages of not being alive anymore. But definitely look up into the tree a little bit further. You'll start to see, you know, indicators like bark peeling off, branches that are, you know, fallen, you know, branches around the ground, things like that are good indicators. So while you're out here, it's good to just be kind of mindful of those things as well. Just save yourself some time and energy. So again, just little details can just save you a lot of headache and work later. So as you're out here, just be kind of looking around. So that's gonna be it for right now. So now I've got all but a handful of buckets that we'll save for basically a few different people come over and just kind of learn the process, and so we'll leave those out. But right now we have 60 buckets hung, and the vacuum, or the not the vacuum line, vacuum line's behind me. I've got about four runs of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs on that, and we'll get that connected probably next week. We'll see. This is kind of our test run right now, so everything's actually flowing very, very well. There's a little bit of a cold snap coming up, so we may hold off on that. But the buckets I intentionally do early. One, because I don't have a ton of time to be boiling with my full-time job and everything else that we have going on. It's just a lot. So once we get into March, especially middle and end of March, once it starts warming up, I'm already done. And buckets are a little bit more weather dependent too, with bugs and things like that. So for me, getting those out early is perfect. That's what I'd rather do, catch a little bit of that early season sat flow. So we've got that set. I'm really happy with it. So like I said, we got 60 buckets on the trees, and then the gravity line that we just hung. So that's 10 taps on that gravity line. So that's 70 trees that are tapped with 70 different spiles. So hoping for a good run. Like I said, right now everything's running very well. This section we just tapped, there's some of it that's running really good, some of it's not. This little marshy area tends to do very, very well. I've got these 2 trees that are definitely already dripping really well. Some of the other ones just haven't started in yet. It's raining. It's still pretty cold today, but this rain's going to start to draw that sap out. So tomorrow we get a little bit colder. But I think with this rain, it's still going to be right on that cusp. I think it will still be running even tomorrow. And then things warm back up. And so I definitely expect this to really pick up, like I said, kind of gradually today and tomorrow. But then after that, I would expect that these are all going to be filling up very, very well. And we'll be ready for a boil very soon. So excited for that. And we'll bring you along for that process as well. But so that's pretty much it for right now. So again, really 60 buckets, 10 taps on that gravity line, and then pretty soon next week we'll get the rest of this gravity or the vacuum line connected, and that'll be fun. We'll show you the vacuum pump that we created, off-grid vacuum pump with solar panels and all that. So we'll get that rolling here pretty soon, and we'll bring you along for that too. So for now, only thing I got left to do out here is just check through those buckets that we had previously hung and see where they're at, see if those are filling up still. They were dripping very, very well yesterday, so I'm hoping that's the case again today. And that's pretty much it. It's cold, my hands are a little cold, it's rainy and wet, and so I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Thanks so much for watching. Hope this was helpful and enjoyable. Go out there, get some spiles, get some buckets, get some bags, whatever you want. We go with the buckets. We love it. It's it kind of takes us back. It's really what we do is we try to keep everything as natural and as meaningful as possible. And so we kind of go back to the history of it. So we'll probably always run these buckets. Things to be mindful of if you are going to run buckets. So these are galvanized steel buckets. With that, there were some producers. These are old buckets. I mean, they don't make these anymore for sap production. But when these were made, some producers used lead in the solder, so you got to be very careful. We test all of our sap, and so we know that our lead counts are almost non-detectable. So for us, we're not concerned about that. Lead's, I mean, even those really small increments that we're seeing here, I mean, you're going to get that on your tap water if you're on city water too. So small amounts are, just kind of is what it is. But some producers, you do have lead concerns, so be very careful about that. Know what you're buying, because these are always going to be secondhand if you're buying them or someone's giving them to you. So just keep that in mind to know what it is, and then definitely recommend you test your sap. And by you, I mean not you personally, I mean have it laboratory tested, which is what we do. So again, know the risks with that, and know that there are some products out there that you do have lead concerns to be mindful of. So test regularly and know what you're buying. But so for us, it is important that for our family, we like this. So having that noise, that tinging noise when you first hang a bucket, I mean, there's just nothing like it. It's super great. But again, if you're not all about that and you don't really care, you're gonna probably find it to be a little bit cheaper to go bags. Bags are definitely cumbersome and we definitely do not prefer them. They're bulky and hard to pour out and all that. So just know that there's pros and cons to whatever you're going to use. But they do make some plastic buckets as well, so you could go with something like that. So again, but just go out there, get some spiles, get some buckets or bags, and get something up on the tree. This could be in your backyard. You can do as small as a few different trees. It doesn't have to be a big sugar bush like we've got here. You can definitely do this small scale. You can boil this stuff down in your kitchen. It's not that difficult. It's time consuming though, so just know that. But the product that you end up with is amazing, and there's nothing like it. And it's great to bring your family along with this process as well. So I hope you enjoy that. But again, I hope that you go out and do this on your own as well. So hope this is encouraging for you guys. So. But that's it for now. I'm going to jump out of the rain. All right. Have a great day, guys. Thanks so much. See you next time.